Thank you, Anand. I will moderate the discussion from down the floor, if you can see me. Are there any questions you have for Mr. Agarwal? He can actually see the audience. So if you all wave, he will actually wave back. Are there any questions that you'd like to ask? There are 3 microphones. Any? Other?
This is all very interesting. I think one of the major problems that the world faces insofar as MOCs are concerned is the digital divide. A lot of our students don't have the platform. They don't have computers to begin with. Some of our schools are not even electrified. I don't know whether that question can be addressed by you. Do you have any suggestions?
Absolutely. So today, when governments build infrastructure, when governments want to build schools and universities, governments think of bricks and mortar. They want to build bricks and mortar universities. When I talk to government leaders, I tell them, don't think about bricks and mortar, think about bits and bytes. It is much more efficient and much more effective for governments to provide bandwidth and access to learners than to build even more campuses, than to build even more bricks and mortar settings. The same investment can provide much bigger access. Many nations and companies are innovating in devices. In India, for example, India invented a very low-cost device called the Akash. For $40, students can buy a device that is about 8 inches by 4 inches that is quite adequate for taking these kinds of courses. An internet connection can be provided, whether it's through mobile devices or through terrestrial connections, and it's a much, much cheaper way of providing access. And today, even if you go to places in sub-Saharan Africa, what I'm hearing from them is that thrice as many students have access to bandwidth and mobile devices than to a bricks and mortar school. Just think about it. 3 times as many students have access to technology and bandwidth than they have to a bricks and mortar school. So even though there is a digital divide, I would argue we can not only bridge the divide, but we can at least make a start and offer education to at least start with the students that have access and then get the help of governments and NGOs to increase the access, which is much, much more effective than trying to build more bricks and mortar institutions.
Okay. Other questions? Yes, the gentleman here.
Thank you very much, sir, for that very wonderful presentation. My question is, you have that platform online. Can we collaborate with that platform considering an institution-based approach, or can we partner with you through a consortium? So what do you think would be the best arrangement? Thank you.
So we would be delighted to partner in various ways with Philippines. And I'll give you 3 ways we can do it. One is, any institution in the Philippines, it could be the central government, it could be the education ministry, it could be a consortium of 400 universities. And if any of you can get together and download the Open edX platform for free and just go ahead and do it yourselves. You don't even have to talk to edX, don't have to pay edX a penny. You can just go ahead and use it for free. We've given it away. China did that, France did that, many countries are doing that, so you can just go ahead and do it. A second approach is we would be delighted to work with individual universities within Philippines. send me an email. I will connect you to our partnership people, and we would be delighted to work with universities to have you host your courses on edX. The third approach you can take is you all can say, okay, you don't want to work with edX directly, but you will form a consortium of universities in Philippines and then partner with edX. That is also possible. So we also work with consortia. So for example, IIT Bombay, which is one of the top universities in India, is a partner on edX directly. Xuetang X in China is a national initiative that takes the platform and runs it. And then finally, the Open Courseware Consortium is a consortium of universities that has joined edX and offers courses on edX.org. So any of these things are possible. And we know that the learners in Philippines are very interested. As I said, we have more than 30,000 students from Philippines taking our courses on edX. So any of these are possible, and I would welcome starting a dialogue with either the Philippines government or with individual universities.
Okay, Tommy, can you get the mic? It's closer.
Thank you very much. I'd just like to ask, in your research, which is more effective, a pure self-study interaction or a live blended professor-mediated course? What does the research show?
So the research is showing right now that for a majority of the students, a blended class can be very successful. That is, when a student takes a course and also has access to a teacher in the blended model, that is the most effective form. That said, a purely online approach is also good, just that the blended form with the teacher present is even better.
And then my final question, what do you have pre-collegiate courses for K to 12? And and if you have, what has the experience been with K to 12 online activities?
Sure. So on edX, as I said, we have 2.7 million students. About 5% of the students are pre-college. So 5% of our students are between the ages of 8 and 18. So we have students ranging from 8 years old to 92 years old, and 5% of our students are between the ages of 8 and 18. It turns out that right now, a majority of our courses are higher ed, college courses, although we do have a few high school courses. But right now at edX, we have a major initiative to get a large number of some of the more advanced high school courses so that students have more background material and they can develop the background to take the college courses. So we are gradually expanding beyond college to high school as well.
Okay. Anat, can I ask a question?
Please do.
Can you look forward 5 to 8 to 10 years hence? What will the world of education, given the MOOCs and all of these, look like at that point? I mean, as much as there's been a lot written about the benefit of MOOCs and expanding access, there's also been similar articles about the death of the university and the university degree that goes with the existence of the MOOC. So what will our world of education look like 5 to 8 years from now?
So I've tried to stop predicting the future because everything I predicted 2 years ago about what will happen today has been wrong. But that said, I'll still take a risk and try to predict what will happen in 10 years. What I can say for sure is in 10 years, our education system will be completely different from the way it is today. I believe firmly if universities do not take advantage of the opportunities that technology brings. That those universities that don't take advantage of technology, I really do believe, will not be able to keep pace with the advancements, and they will fall behind. This has happened in technology in a number of areas. If you're a hospital, and if as a hospital, you don't start adopting the latest technology. So if you do surgery in the hospital, and if your hospital does not adopt laparoscopy, patients won't come to your hospital anymore. They will go to hospitals that offer laparoscopy. Similarly, in education, I believe this is a time of transformative change, and universities need to adopt online learning to create the blended model of learning. I believe that 10 years from now, successful universities will have successfully adopted and transformed themselves to be using the blended model. Just as one example, at MIT, in the space of 2 years, it's only taken 2 years, already from nearly 0 out of 3, today 2 out of 3 students are using online learning and the edX platform in a blended model in classes. The last slide, and I think this slide number 24, is actually a classroom at Tsinghua University. Classrooms are being transformed. We will see very few classrooms with rows and rows and rows of students sitting. We will see future workspaces like the one I show in the slide, where students are collaborating and working together, where the lecture will be replaced with the blended model of education. And I really believe that universities will transform themselves. I also believe that in 10 years, a number of students around the world will be getting not just campus degrees through blended learning, but they will also be getting online degrees completely online as well. So I believe that 10 years from now, the world of education is going to be a different place than it is today.
Okay. Any more questions? Yes, please.
Yes, good morning. I have actually experienced taking in MOOC with Coursera. And, you've actually partially answered one of my questions, which is edX now granting, apart from certificates of completion of individual courses, a full curriculum leading to a particular degree? And in connection with that, how have you dealt with regulatory requirements of different countries regarding the recognition of those certificates of completions and later on perhaps even diplomas and degrees granted by online entities such as edX and Coursera?
Thank you for the question. So today, edX gives, so at edX, our courses are very rigorous. So students earn a certificate of achievement only if I pass a course. Our courses do not give a certificate just for completing a course. You have to pass, to complete and pass the course. And if you do that, then you will earn a certificate of achievement. We also have sequences of courses called X series, where you can take a sequence of courses, and if you pass a sequence of courses, you can get a certificate for a program. Now, at this point in time, these sequences of courses will not earn you a degree. But many universities have talked about, in the future, offering university credit for either a single course or a sequences of courses, and possibly even leading to a degree. And so this is likely to happen in the future as our university partners begin to do that. And from a regulation standpoint, there are universities today that give you completely an online degree. So for example, there's a very famous university in the United States called the Southern New Hampshire University, snhu.edu. And there you can get a completely online degree. And it's a full degree in subjects like IT and healthcare and so on and so forth. And so it is not unusual to be able to get a complete degree online. And so I don't see that as a very big hurdle for the future.
And the next question about how you might have gotten around national regulations on the recognition of degrees?
So, so there are many national regulations in a variety of areas. On the degree front, at the end of the day, it's up to the employers. If an employer likes a student applying for a job and they like what they see, they will hire the student. So if you go to many software companies today, at Google, for example, already they're hiring a large number of students that don't have a traditional degree. They're looking for people with the right set of skills. And in many countries, oftentimes degrees can be worthless. There are stories of huge students coming up with entire degrees, and many of these degrees are not worth the paper they're printed on. And students still come out with big skills gaps. In India, for example, if you go to companies like Infosys and Wipro and Tata Consultancy Services, Accenture and so on, each of them has their own university within the company that has to fill the skills gaps and retrain the students that come out with degrees. So first of all, I think that 10 years from now, I think the concept of a degree will be revisited. Either that or many of these non-traditional, newer ways of credentialing will also be given degrees by various accrediting agencies. So I think we will see a lot of change in the next 10 years to really recognize what is a quality education and how a quality education can be recognized both by the government and also by employers.
Okay, can we get two more questions? Okay, it's always when I'm about to end that I have a number of hands. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, last 5 questions, please. And let's no follow-ups anymore.
Good morning, sir. Can you possibly illustrate and demonstrate or give us some mechanics or modules on how we can apply the blended model when we can still use the professor-mediated classroom style of teaching plus the online that you are emphasizing? Is it possible, sir, to give us the model how can this be done that is applicable to our schools, that will not jeopardize the very existence and survival of colleges and universities? Can you more or less elaborate on that, sir?
Sure. So, so the blended model really combines both online and in person. And so a number of universities are experimenting with various ways in which the blended model can work. And one thing we are thinking of doing at edX is also to create a MOOC on how to teach a blended model class. And so, so our hope is that, so just imagine having an online class on how to teach a blended class. And so teachers will be able to take such a course and based on that to be able to blend the classroom. But a lot of that experimentation is happening right now, and our hope is that very quickly, within a year or two, we can find a way to scale that so more and more universities can get access to the online materials and use a blended model class.
Okay, Tina?
Professor Agarwal, well, first of all, I'd like you to know that I've taken one of your courses from the Letters of Paul, taught by a Harvard professor. And also, some of our faculty members are enrolling in your courses as part of their faculty development. And I'm thinking that perhaps our university can pay for this certification if they do get a certification for one of those courses. It's a very good way by which we can do excellent faculty development. But what I'd like to ask is, what would be the attributes of a successful online student? Have you done any research on that?
Sure, you mentioned the course Letters of Paul. And when that course was taught, Letters of Paul, that course was counted as the largest Bible study in the world. And so the MOOCs are breaking records, not just in education, but in all sorts of very interesting areas. Your question was, what are the right attributes of a online student? I think fundamentally, any student that has the will to learn is an online student. And particularly the newer generation of student is very, very comfortable with online media. People like me are not that good. I'm older, and so I'm not that comfortable with online. But the newer generation of students, they are texting and tweeting and YouTubing and Snapchatting and WhatsApping and whining all day long. And so I don't know how they do it, but they're very comfortable doing it. So I think anybody can be an online student. However, at this time, we have seen that for the real students who are very self-directed and motivated seem to be able to complete the courses and pass the courses at a much higher rate than other students. But from a fundamental sense, I believe that any learner can be an online learner.
Thank you. This lady.
Mr. Agaral, I'm from Bangladesh, and I'm so excited, and I'm looking forward to seeing that our students from the remote villages will be able to access your online program. But what I also like to ask now, I'm really curious to know how the subjects like psychology or philosophy can be taught online effectively. Thank you.
A very good question. And first of all, when students are living in villages and so on, once you provide bandwidth and so on, what is beautiful about online learning is that in the past, the students had to travel miles and miles and away from home and go to a classroom to an education. The learner had to go to the education. With online, just imagine, we can bring education to the learner, wherever they are, at whatever time they want. That is the beauty of online learning. To your question about teaching philosophy and psychology and so on edX, we already have courses in many of these topics. So for example, in philosophy, there is a course from Professor Hoberman from University of Texas at Austin, and that is a course on globalization and philosophy. So any subject can be taught online, and the question is, how do you do assessments? And on edX, we have a discussion forum where students can undertake discussions. We are also able to grade many different types of questions, like essay questions and so on. And we can use techniques like peer grading, where students grade each other's work. We can also grade essay questions using artificial intelligence techniques, where we use machine learning to grade essay questions. So technology is advancing at an incredible pace. And so we can also teach courses with laboratories. We use virtual labs and gamification techniques to teach courses using laboratories. So I think we are developing more and more technologies to be able to teach a more and more diverse type of courses. So in the long term, I see very few things that we cannot teach.
Okay, I can only take two more questions, the gentleman here and the gentleman over there.
Yeah, I'm Dr. Cordero. Actually, I'm a product of this online program in the United States. And it so happened that we introduce here in the Philippines of my school. But the problem here in the Philippines is the Commission on Higher Education discriminate the schools, offering those distance education. But how can you bridge now in the Philippines the gap, the problem? How do we implement here in the Philippines when actually the CHED people discriminate the schools here offering distance education? So ang problema dito sa atin. Napakaganda, no? Mismo when I go to the CHED and ask them to go on distance education, and you're not accredited. You cannot offer because you are not accredited. You know, accreditation is not a permit to operate a school. So I guess the Philippines, now there is the need for you to overhaul the system of education here in the Philippines, both the lower, the basic and then the higher education. It is now high time that we need to move forward. Thank you so much.
I think what is interesting is that I should invite you to come to the US and give the same speech in the US. I think the problems you stated are universal problems, and not just in Philippines, but in every country in the world. When there's dramatic innovation and change happening, governments must recognize that. And even at edX, we are running into many government regulations that were created for classroom education, and they're applying them to online, and the same thing cannot be true. And so I think governments have to adapt, and whenever you're doing innovation, particularly when you're doing revolution, when you're doing revolutionary work, you have to be prepared to run into all kinds of obstacles, but you have to overcome them. And I think we will need the regulatory agencies to move, and I think we need to make a strong case to make the changes. And I think change will happen because at the end of the day, it is the employers that matter. If an employer, in the US, for example, already today employers are giving jobs to people who don't have degrees. Employers are looking at what have you done in the past. They don't look at, very often in software, for example, they don't look at where you got your degree or what degree that you have. And so I think both through employers picking the right people and also by working with regulatory agencies, my hope is that we can really help to change the world.
Okay, one last question, please.
Hello, sir. Sir, well, we are going to try and address the accreditation and stuff and all the issues with the online degrees. I would just like to ask about how these online courses will be able to help our institutions as a business. Because we have talked about delivering education to to a lot of people, to people who are into distant learning. However, I still fail to see how it is able to help us as a business. Because what I think is, although we are able to fulfill the mission of education, which is to provide education for our people and to give them jobs at the end of the day, we still are a business entity. And I fail to see how these online courses will be helping our institutions in that sense. So can you please enlighten us on that?
I think we can think of online courses as helping to save the education institution. In the US, for example, the education system is a real challenge because the tuition cost has skyrocketed much faster than the pace of inflation. At many private universities, the annual cost of an education exceeds $70,000 per year. And the same thing is not true in many countries, but certainly in the US, the cost has just gotten completely crazy. And so online education, whether it's in the Philippines or in the United States, has a potential. I don't know if it is the right answer, but I think it has the potential to affect the business model positively. So for example, in a campus setting, all the students have to come to class and you have a certain number of students and you have to provide hostels and classrooms and so on. But there's a lot more students who don't have access to education. So what you can do is also offer an online program. And when you offer an online program, you can expand your student base, and perhaps with the online base, you can charge them a lower tuition. So you can expand the number of students who are learning at your institution without necessarily having to build more infrastructure like hostels. You can also charge a lower fee to the students. And so this could be a win-win. So you get more revenue, and at the same time, more students will learn at a lower cost. And so that might be one way of using online revenues to augment the in-person revenues.
Okay, Anand, any last words for the audience here in the Philippines before we let you go to sleep?
These are all great questions, and it has been my pleasure to have a discussion with the leaders of universities in Philippines, and I'm really looking forward to collaborating in the future.
Okay, thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, a round of applause from Dr. Anand Agarwal. Thank you, sir, and have a good night. Thank you.
Good night.